Tonight, a relationship reset helps to restart trade talks. Deal-making at the G20, what Canada and India have just agreed to despite past tensions.
You can be both a reliable trading partner and there will be some sources of friction.
Building the future of Canadian defense with volunteers.
This is all part of our transformation effort.
What a volunteer defense corps could be called on to do for Canada. Plus, your chance to get your hands on a collection that's truly out of this world.
This is the UFO haven, I guess.
How a trove of alien investigation material wound up in a Vancouver warehouse, and whether it confirms that the truth is out there.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Heather Wright.
Good evening. Canada and India have agreed to what is being called a comprehensive economic partnership, marking a significant shift in what has been a contentious relationship between the two countries. Ottawa and New Delhi have been pursuing a free trade agreement on and off for more than a decade, a pact that has taken on more urgency during the United States' ongoing trade war. CTV's Rachel Aiello reports from Johannesburg.
Good morning.
Prime Minister Mark Carney wrapped up his latest foreign trip today, taking big steps towards trading more with India.
Does your government view India as a reliable trading partner?
In terms of trade, yes, we do, actually. You can be both a reliable trading partner and there will be some sources of friction.
After saying that, Carney sat down with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, their second one-on-one meeting in the last 6 months. And the two emerged announcing Canada and India are launching negotiations towards a new economic partnership agreement.
The ability to have more effective trade with them, to scale that trade with them, would be greatly helped by that.
This reset comes after years of strained relations over allegations India denies of involvement in criminal activity on Canadian soil.
With respect to any forms of foreign interference, we have to remain vigilant. We are vigilant.
Carney also announced today that after talking on the sidelines of the G20 summit, he and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa agreed to launch talks towards a new bilateral investment agreement. Since taking office, the Prime Minister has secured nearly a dozen new economic and security partnerships in a push to diversify away from the United States. And as he pursues more deals, Carney said Canadians shouldn't consider that engagement as an endorsement of everything a country does.
There are countries that we're not doing business with, that we're not talking to.
Asked today when he last spoke to U.S. President Donald Trump, Carney dismissed the question. The Prime Minister said he's been busy, and when the Americans want to resume trade talks, Canada's ready. Heather?
Thanks, CTV's Rachel Aiello in Johannesburg. The Prime Minister also speaking with Ukraine's president today about the next steps in a peace agreement with Russia. Both Mark Carney and Volodymyr Zelensky say they support U.S. efforts to reach a negotiated peace plan with Moscow, though they want to see changes to what has been proposed. This comes as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio led talks with a Ukrainian delegation in Geneva today. While Rubio says no agreement has reached, work still needs to be done. He said progress was made on crafting a plan to end the war. Drug trafficking, migrant smuggling, cybercrimes. Those were some of the topics up for discussion as G7 security and interior ministers met today in Ottawa. But as Canada looks to help in the fight against international organized crime, it's facing criticism for its own policing here at home. CTV's Colton Prale explains.
G7 security ministers say they plan to follow the money to track and disrupt international criminal syndicates. The move part of a series of reaffirmations from a weekend of meetings in Ottawa.
It's always about the money, of course, especially when it comes to drug. It's the most lucrative business in a way we see in the organized crime.
But as Canada joins international allies in that pledge, its own ability to do so is under review by the Financial Action Task Force, the global authority on money laundering techniques and legislation.
The reality is that we're not getting convictions with our huge mega cases. And that is, as I indicated earlier, for a number of reasons related to the criminal justice system as a whole, disclosure and so forth.
A 2022 report found British Columbia home to an enormous volume of money laundering. But experts say the problem extends across the country. This year, policing bodies in Ontario, BC, and the RCMP have all highlighted staffing shortages, leaving them without the resources to fully tackle the issue.
Their priority is stuff that's happening on the street. It's murders, it's assaults. And so and they don't have the resources to sort of figure out how this money got to Dubai and then got over into Singapore and eventually back into Toronto.
Experts say Ottawa is working to address the problem. Last month, the government unveiled plans for a new financial crimes agency, and it's promised to hire an additional 1,000 RCMP officers.
We are taking a number of additional measures in addition to the border plan, in addition to FinTrack, to ensure that we can follow the money.
While most other G7 nations have a dedicated strategy to combat organized crime, Canada doesn't. It's something the public safety minister says he'll reflect on, although he says the work is still getting done. Heather.
All right, Colton Prale in Ottawa. Thanks for this, Colton. And at that G7 meeting today, the public safety minister said the federal government's rollout of its contentious gun buyback program is set to launch nationally after a pilot project wrapped in Nova Scotia.
We believe the systems are operational and are ready to go. I will be sharing our next steps on the program as we roll out throughout the country. But it is significant to say that we will be rolling the program out across Canada.
The government launched its pilot program in Cape Breton earlier this fall. Results of that early rollout have not been released, and there's no word yet on when the national rollout is expected to begin. Conservation officials in British Columbia are increasing their efforts to track down a mother bear and her 2 cubs, days after a group of elementary school students and their teachers were attacked. CTV's Craig Krause is in Bella Coola tonight.
Traps, snares, and cameras are being scattered around the Bella Coola area as new information emerges that a mother bear and 2 cubs were in the area at the time a school group was attacked.
This is probably the most dangerous thing that conservation officers do, especially dealing with family units with sows.
We're here off Highway 20 near where the students were having their field trip before they were attacked on Thursday afternoon. And as you can see, the entrance to the trail is taped off as BC conservation officers remain in this forested area, all in an attempt to prevent another attack.
You know, like some people, there's some bad people out there. Every once in a while you get a bad bear.
New Elk Nation point out that their people have coexisted with bears for centuries. So how have you been over the last few days?
Been hurting inside.
Hereditary Chief Noel Poulis trying to stay strong for his community, sharing stories of how the students and teachers fought back to save one another.
The teacher that was helped the kids, he was so brave, he jumped on top of the bear and fought it with his bare hands.
But Poulis fears the dangers from the bears will only get worse as more and more appear in the community searching for food.
We never had anything like this ever. We are now making aware to the public what we're going through environmental issues.
Reports indicate the bear that attacked the group may have been injured previously. Both Chief Poulis and experts say this only makes them more aggressive.
It can unfortunately cause the bear, of course, to be in severe pain. It can be difficult for them to feed themselves if they are injured.
BC Conservation tells us officers and more resources are being brought in to help in the search, a search that will continue with no timeline yet of leaving. Craig Crowe, CTV News, Bella Coola.
We're learning more tonight about a fatal fire just west of Toronto this week that has devastated a family and left a neighborhood shaken.
I feel sorry for them. I wish I could help them even, and you can't do nothing.
Flames tore through this home in Brampton, Ontario early Thursday morning. One family member who lived at the home but was away for work at the time says he lost 5 loved ones, including his unborn child. Several of the victims remain in hospital with critical injuries. Investigators are looking for 2 people still missing, one who is believed to be a toddler. A new citizenship law is being both celebrated and criticized. The so-called Lost Canadians legislation will allow Canadians born abroad to pass on their citizenship to their children who were also born outside the country. But critics say that same bill is discriminatory toward adopted children born overseas and will make it harder to get their citizenship. CTV's Kamal Karamali explains.
Little Nathaniel is as much part of the Langtang family as it gets. Born in Zambia, but adopted by Canadian parents from Toronto.
Well, we're a pretty tight unit. Our son is the most important thing that's ever happened to us.
But his mother says new legislation discriminates against her son and other adoptees born abroad because it makes them have to prove they're Canadian.
It's utterly cruel what the government has done to us as a family and to other families like us in Canada, and it's just mean.
The Senate has passed this bill.
Last week, the Senate passed a historic bill called the Lost Canadians legislation. Now a Canadian parent who was not born in Canada can pass down citizenship to a child who was also born abroad. But the parent must show a substantial connection to Canada, which includes spending at least 3 years in the country. The same substantial connection must also be proven by children born outside of Canada and adopted by parents residing in the country. They're called inter-country adoptees. Canadian parents who have adopted children from abroad say the rule is discriminatory because children adopted in Canada don't have to go through the same substantial connection test.
It sort of creates an entire set of barriers for them, for their travel as well. So there are real life implications for these inter-country adoptees.
Officials say close to 2,000 or more children adopted from abroad could be affected, with the issue potentially prompting a legal challenge.
We are open to dialogue with the government. It seems to me that this particular issue is capable of a narrow legislative fix.
Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada says more details on how this new legislation will be implemented will be revealed in the weeks ahead. The minister and her team will engage with adoption stakeholders on the issues raised during testimony.
We're really hurt.
For this mother, she hopes it's not too late.
What's your message to the federal government now?
My message is to stop bullying my son, to amend this bill immediately.
To try and make her son feel at home here like every Canadian child should. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Toronto.
A bold suggestion tonight from Canada's top military strategists who want to create a volunteer force to help defend the country from both man-made and natural disasters. CTV senior correspondent Judy Trin takes a look at what that kind of defense corps could look like.
Facing rising threats from climate change and competing states, testing Canada's sovereignty, military strategists want the federal government to create a volunteer defense corps made up of 300,000 citizens.
When we're thinking about the number of events and domestic operations we've had in terms of fighting forest fires and so on, so this is all part of our transformation effort, and all Canadians will be, of course, voluntarily invited to serve.
The document, drafted by the Strategic Joint Staff, says the force would have less restrictive age limits and lower physical standards and fitness requirements. The plan hasn't been approved by the government, but the defense minister supports the idea.
The notion of having a civil force or a civil group of Canadians who are ready, willing, and able to serve their country is something that has been talked about for years in Canada. It's something that our allies are doing and pursuing very, very actively.
In countries like Sweden and Finland, hundreds of thousands of citizens are trained to operate bomb shelters and respond to natural disasters. Under Canada's plan, the volunteers would get 5 days of training each year to learn how to shoot a gun, drive a truck, and operate a drone. They would not be paid.
It's no surprise that the Department of National Defence and Canadian Armed Forces would look to many sources to recruit people from, including people who are already dedicated to public service. They may be federal, they may be provincial, they may be municipal, they may be in business, they may be in the banking sector, they may be on Bay Street.
But the number of volunteer recruits may be too ambitious when the Canadian military is still dealing with a shortage of 15,000 soldiers.
McGuinty says he's confident the $82 billion the federal government earmarked for defense in this year's budget will lead to more interest in the military and more recruits. Judy Trin, CTV News, Toronto.
Coming up, panic-filled moments in the emergency department.
You're sitting there thinking, I'm going to die.
Why this man switched hospitals in the middle of a health crisis. A Winnipeg man says he was not being properly treated at a local hospital, so he left and went to a different one, all while having a heart attack. CTV's Alex Karpa has his story and a warning from doctors that this sort of thing is happening more often.
Yeah, this is what my heart looked like.
Heimana Romana was experiencing terrible chest pain on July 10th, 2022.
I can't describe it. You're sweating, your hands, you can feel yourself drifting off because of the pain so severe.
He went to Winnipeg's Health Sciences Centre where he was triaged and told to wait in the emergency room. But after 2 hours, his pain kept getting worse, and he says no one came to help him.
You're sitting there thinking, I'm going to die.
He realized he couldn't wait any longer and left to get help elsewhere. Within 15 minutes of arriving at another hospital, doctors told him he was having a STEMI heart attack, a blockage in a coronary artery, and needed immediate treatment.
The surgeons and the doctors down at St. Boniface Hospital saved my life.
Shared Health, which runs Manitoba's largest hospital, says patients get scored based on their symptoms when they arrive in the ER. This score determines how often they should be reassessed. Romana says he required checks every 15 minutes, but claims that did not happen.
This is becoming more and more of an issue.
In an ideal situation, cardiologists advise a patient with a STEMI should have their artery opened up within 90 minutes.
People can misdiagnose these, people can make mistakes, these sorts of things happen. But a STEMI is really one of the, small number of situations where that person should be taken to the angiography theater immediately.
Romana has had a tough couple of years. He says his heart now only pumps between 35 to 40%, which has put him in heart failure.
Once upon a time, I could, ride my bike 20K, run 5K. I can't do anything then.
He has since filed several complaints against the hospital and hopes his story will shed light on ongoing issues in the ER. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Still ahead, building a league of their own. The Canadian names taking center field as women's professional baseball returns to North America. There is certainly no crying in this baseball league, with 20 Canadians set to take to the field next spring as part of the inaugural season of the Women's Pro Baseball League. Here's CTV's Garrett Barry on the Canadians making baseball history.
With the 14th overall pick in the Women's Pro Baseball League draft,
Three Canadian pitchers were among the league's top picks when the 4 Women's Pro Baseball League teams claimed their first ever players in the league's first ever draft.
Pretty cool that I can say my daughter's a professional baseball player.
Among them, St. John's-born Jada Lee. She was the first woman to pitch in the Canada Summer Games, and now the youngest pitcher picked in the first round of this WPBL draft. A full circle moment for her mom, Amanda, who remembers Jada being brave enough to say she wanted to play professional baseball when she was just 13.
Any girl who wants to play in the major league, stand up. Now I'll get emotional. And she jumped up, and of course you're like, oh, that's so cute. Like, oh, it's nice to dream that, but you don't ever think it's going to happen, and now it's happened.
This new league will start play next August at a ballpark in Springfield, Illinois. It was co-founded by Keith Stein, CEO of the Toronto Maple Leafs of the Inter-County Baseball League.
Ali Schroeder.
The Canadian influence doesn't stop there. 20 Canadian women in total, many of them current or former national team players, are among this league's initial draft class.
You'd have to think that instead of, maybe 150 or 200 really skilled women across Canada, that pool now will be 2,000 in 30 years or 40 years, right?
The salaries in the league are modest, at least in the first year, just $6,000 per player on average. But for Lee's father, it's a step towards growing the women's game, which he says is in dire need of places to play and goals to reach for. Garrett Barry, CTV News, St. John's.
Still ahead, piquing extraterrestrial interest. How the truth to life beyond the stars may just be found at a Vancouver auction house. Polls have shown a majority of Canadians believe there is intelligent life out there among the stars, and someone could get their hands on decades worth of research into UFOs. It's all sitting in a Vancouver warehouse. Here's CTV's Andrew Johnson on how it ended up there and what's inside.
This is the UFO haven, I guess.
Jeff Schwartz has seen a lot in his 40 years in the liquidation business, but nothing quite as unusual as this.
I get all kinds of stuff, anything and everything that you could possibly think of. Getting something like this, I would say it's probably in the top one, if not the top one.
The paranormal collection comes from California and a guy by the name of Chris Wyatt, who produced multiple documentaries on UFOs and alien encounters.
Became Hollywood's de facto UFO producer in the mid to late 90s.
He spent years gathering evidence, declassified government documents, and recording testimonials.
Also included in the auction, this, and it's not your normal family photo album. Inside, photographs captured over decades all over the world, alleged UFO sightings long before the era of Photoshop.
You can see fighter jets chasing some of these UFOs.
The centerpiece comes from Roswell Air Force Base in New Mexico, where the alleged remains of a UFO and its alien crew were taken in 1947 after a crash. It's a yearbook detailing who worked at the base at the time. Wyatt says all copies were confiscated, but a former officer approached him with one he'd saved.
This gentleman was in an oxygen tank. He said, "I don't have long to live. This is my prized possession, and I think you're the guy to own it."
Wyatt has now left his film career behind and hopes the collection is bought next month by a production company interested in investigating further. The Vancouver sellers say it sparked a lot of discussion on close encounters in the city that provided the setting for the X-Files.
I've talked to a few people, and everybody seems to kind of have a story.
Maybe the truth is right here. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
And that is our newscast for this Sunday, November 23rd. Many communities kicking off the holiday season this weekend with parades, Santa, and good cheer. And so we wanted to leave you with some of those pictures tonight. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.